This is a very short introduction to get you started with Zotero and just to help you think about organizing your literature search. So the first thing you need to do, if you haven't already, is to download a copy of Zotero. And you can do this by going through the SO303A Special Topics Core Module homepage on Moodle. You can also just throw Zotero into Google. It'll be the first result that comes up. But the link is down here under this Useful Resources tab. Here's the link to download Zotero for Windows. And there's also a Maynooth Library Zotero support page here, but there's pretty good documentation out there for how to use Zotero, and this video will show you everything you need to get started anyway. There's a couple of more advanced features that we can talk about later in the term, but these are just the basics. So you'll be brought to a landing page. There's a link for documentation if you want to read some of the installation guides, frequently asked questions and things like that. And as you get more adept at using Zotero, you can come back here and look at some of the more advanced features. So to install it, you need to go to download and then just pick your platform. So there'll be an option for Windows over here, which is the default, but if you're on a Mac, you just click onto other platforms and you can download it for Mac or for Linux, or for iOS, it'll work on iPad as well if you're using that. There's also a Chrome connector if you're using, if you want to use this particular feature, which is the Zotero connector, where it automatically senses content as you browse the web and lets you save it with a single click. This is the version that I use. This little button up here is quite handy, so I will suggest that you first of all use Chrome, get yourself signed in and set up with it, and then install the Chrome connector here. There's a couple of third-party plugins, but again, these are more advanced features that you can get to later on as you become more proficient, and there's discussion forums and all sorts of things here. So I recommend this one here. This is the one that I use the most and probably over the years have got the most use out of. Install the Chrome connector, and what it will do is it will do two things. It will install the Zotero program for you. It will direct you to set up an account if you've never used Zotero before, and it will also install a little extension here on Chrome. You can put this wherever you want really in the browser, but I have it up here in the top right. This feature, which as you'll see here says save to Zotero. So I'll show you how this works in a moment. So when you launch Zotero, and it is important to note that if you are going to use this feature, you do need to have Zotero running in the background. The idea is that what we're going to use it for is, as we are searching for literature on the internet, through the website, through the library website, or through Google Scholar, or any of the academic databases, we are going to use this Zotero extension to automatically save our readings for us and automatically create a bibliography. The other thing it will do is it will create an additional tab in Microsoft Word, if we allow it to, that will allow us to insert and compile references as we write, and I'll show you how that feature works in another video. So I'll assume at this point you've gone through all of this, you've read the instructions, and you've launched Zotero, and it brings you to your page. It won't look like this, but this is a version that I've been using for a project of mine. So generally what we want to do is we want to start by setting everything up so that we've got a good workflow. Over here we've got our main library, and we can subdivide this library of papers into folders. And over here we can start a collection. So a collection is just kind of like a folder where all the papers related to one project are going to sit. And you can use this for other modules as well. If you're doing an essay, you can set up a collection for another project, or for another module, or for another assignment. So I'm going to start a new collection, and I'm going to call it SO303 Readings. Maybe just give it a date as well, because it's always good. We'll give it a date of 2024. And this creates for us a blank space. And you can see my previous project or collection is up here. I can flick back and forth between these. And I'm going to leave this one open and running in the background. I'm not going to close this. I'm going to keep it running. Now, there's a few things we can do with Zotero. If we find an article online and we want to enter the details, we can enter it in manually. We can ask Zotero, or we can have our book in front of us, have our printed paper in front of us, and we can manually add in the details of the book section we're reading, of a journal article or report or whatever it is. There's loads of different file types down here, everything from a radio broadcast to a blog post, to a legal or a bill read out in whatever political chamber. So the other thing we can do then is we can also let it run automatically. So let's imagine that we're in the library and we're using the library search facility to look for papers on educational inequality. Now again, I'm going to show you in more detail how to use and refine your searches later on in the term. But for the moment, let's say we've refined our results and we've got a set of journal articles, we've just asked it for journal articles, and these are the journal articles that we've gotten in our search related to education and inequality. There's a couple of papers here that look, okay, here's a paper here from 2020, How Redistributive Policies Reduce Market Inequality, Education Premiums in 22 OECD Countries. Okay, country level paper, looks relevant, and if we click in here, you'll see that the library's activated this little full text online button, which means we have access to the full text of the article. So what happens is, as it loads up this page, you should see something kind of happening here, or activating or changing. Again, it doesn't matter if it doesn't, but oftentimes when you have access to the full text of the article, you'll see this kind of change it. There you go. So we're at the journals page and we're at the article page. So this is the entire article. This is the research article published in the journal Socioeconomic Review. We can scroll down here, we've got the full text of it, and we can also click here to access a PDF if we want. What the extension allows us to do, and remember, we've got to make sure we have Zotero running in the background while we're doing this at the appropriate collection. And we click this button, and what it's going to do is it's going to, you'll see it coming up here slightly, and it gets, the text becomes fully filled out then as it downloads. We have this saved to our SO303 readings folder. We have a snapshot, which is going to give us the metadata, which I'll show you in a moment, and we have the full text PDF. Now if I go back to Zotero, you'll see that we now have an entry under our SO303 Readings 2024 folder. We have the title, we have the creator, that's the authors in this case, we have the item type and a symbol over here that shows us that we have the full text. We also have the full bibliographic details saved over here. All of these little pieces are now filled out. The journal title, the DOI, which is the object identifier, we can use this as a link in our browsers to get back to it. It's also a more conventional URL. The date we accessed it, volume, issue, page numbers, all of that. What we can do now is we can double tap on this entry here anywhere we like, and it'll take us immediately to the full text of the article. And it's just opened this up like a tab. You'll see that we have our original page here with our folder and our readings, and we have a tab now with the full text article open there. And now if I wanted to, we could simply do all this manually. We could get the details of our article here. We could go back to Zotero. We could type in, manually ask it to add a new item, a journal article. Then we could type in the title, type in Socioeconomic Review, type in the volume, type in the issue. But again, it's quite unwieldy. We might need to do this for older or more obscure items, but this is a really handy way. Now if we go back and close this down, we can go back through the rest of our results and see, is there anything else here that might be interesting? So we have a paper here on COVID-19, remote learning and inequalities. This might be useful. So we click again into full text online, and you'll see we have access to the full text in the web page. We also have access to the PDF. So again, I can click up here on our Save to Zotero link, and you can see it working away there. And when it's finally finished downloading, the text should turn to bold. Now again, if we go back here, you'll see that the item has now been added into our list of entries. Again, we have the full bibliographic data down here, and we've got our DOI and our URL and our time of access. These are going to become really important later on because these are often details that we'll need to supply with our bibliography. So we can continue on in this way by adding, whenever we come across anything that Zotero is able to save, it will let us know up here if we click on this little button. So we can use this to add news items. Journal articles are probably the most common thing that at least they should form the bulk of your readings for your proposal and for your final project. So this is how to get started using Zotero, and in this example I've just shown you how to do it using articles, full text journal articles that have been accessed through the library, but it will also work with things like Google Scholar and any of the other academic search facilities that you want to use. But again, in later videos I'll show you how to use Zotero with things like secondary data, documents, data sets, stuff like that. And I'll also show you how it integrates with Microsoft Word. It'll also work with Apple Pages and things like that to allow you to build your bibliographies as you go without having to write all that stuff in at the end.